terror of Mount Sheela. Many years ago, a race of robots called Autobots were forced to wage a war against another robot race called Decepticons. This was in order to bring peace to their home planet of Cybertron. The war ranged far and wide through space, and chance brought them close to Earth, where, in their ferocious tussle, they both crashed so violently that all the robots lay buried in the Earth's crust, seemingly without life. 4 million years later, in our time, energy set in motion by a powerful volcanic eruption gives them life again, and the war starts up once more here on Earth. But now, not only do the Autobots have to defend themselves against the unscrupulous Decepticons, but also swear to protect this planet Earth with all its resources and its inhabitants from them. At the same time, they must also try to build a new spaceship so that one day they can return to Cybertron. Because of their ability to appear as either robot or vehicle, they are called the Transformers. Now, terror of Mount Sheela. Leaving most of their colleagues to guard the Ark in Mount St. Hilary, a half-dozen or so Autobots under the command of their leader, Optimus Prime, had set off on a scouting mission. They were desperately searching for a source of energy that would enable them to rebuild their starship to make the return to Cybertron. They had transformed and moved thousands of miles in their search. Now they were in the wild, deserted countryside of Central South America. With them, to guide and advise, were 2 Earth people with whom they had struck up a great friendship. They were the brothers John and Tim Gordon, both physicists and geographical experts, and both were now riding in Huffer's cab across the rough countryside. The hot sun beat down on the Autobot convoy. Huffer, as usual, was grumbling.
Travel, always on the move. I suppose they think I need exercise.
John smiled. He knew Huffer's reputation and love of a good grumble.
You know, Optimus Prime feels it's absolutely top priority to find the energy source. Yes, not only to rebuild the Ark, but to use against the Decepticons, Tim added. I know, Huffer grumbled. And to be able to bargain with them to persuade them to leave Earth as well. I wouldn't be sorry to see them go, Tim added. They don't care what damage they cause.
And so the Autobots steadily continued on their way. Optimus Prime, Jazz, Sideswipe, Gears, Sunstreaker, and Ratchet. Suddenly, Huffer came to a standstill. Within seconds, the other Autobots had gathered round. John and Tim stepped down from Huffer's cab. The Autobots all transformed.
What's the matter, Huffer? Asked Jazz. You tired of something? Not too tired to see something, Huffer replied. I saw something just now. A lizard, but I didn't stop to tell everybody,
Gears complained. Optimus Prime interrupted them. What did you see, Huffer? Huffer turned to his leader.
Thank goodness somebody can take an intelligent interest. Yes, but what did you see? Inquired Sunstreaker.
Huffer pointed.
Look over there, in the far distance on the horizon. What is it?
They all followed Huffer's gaze. Then John, shielding his eyes from the bright sunlight, said, It's a volcano.
So that's a volcano, said Jazz. I know a volcanic eruption was responsible for our release, but I didn't know what an actual volcano looked like. Why is it shaped like that? Asked Sunstreaker.
Tim explained how after an eruption the lava flow builds up into a cone, and in the top of the cone there is a great crater. He went on to tell them that sometimes a volcano rests quietly for years, and suddenly erupts with tremendous force and power, throwing lava and great stones from the crater, which tumble down the volcano's sides to enlarge the cone. They all listened with interest. Then Optimus Prime commented, The longer I am on your Earth, the stranger it becomes. But it must be a tremendous source of energy to cause an eruption like that.
Almost beyond imagination when it does erupt, Tim replied.
Huffer grumbled.
I don't suppose it ever erupts, so let's not waste time talking about it. Let's get on. It was you that stopped in the first place, complained Gears. I knew I would do something wrong, Huffer muttered.
Then Optimus Prime said, Let's go and look at it. With all that power there, it might be useful to us. John turned to him.
We on Earth have never found a way to harness the power. Optimus Prime replied gently.
I like you Earth people. Well, most of them. But could I respectfully suggest that your technical science is light years behind us from Cybertron?
John and Tim both smiled. They knew the Autobot leader spoke the truth. Then Optimus Prime asked,
But tell me, does this particular volcano often erupt?
The two brothers spent a few minutes studying their maps and references. Finally, Tim said,
That, in fact, appears to be Mount Sheela, a volcano that erupts quite frequently.
John, who had been poring over other references and papers, added,
As a matter of interest, an eruption has been expected for some months there now.
Let's go and look. Now, Optimus Prime ordered. Transform!
Within moments, John and Tim were back in Huffer's cab, and they were all heading toward the distant volcano. In the meantime, back in the awesome Decepticon fortress, things were happening. The tyrannical leader, Megatron, was carefully studying a report brought in by Laserbeak. Eventually, he spoke.
Well done, Laserbeak. Good work and very interesting, but a little puzzling, too.
What is it, Megatron?
Asked Starscream.
Laserbeak has discovered that self-righteous Autobot leader Optimus Prime has set off with 5 others of his group and 2 Earth people, and are at this moment in Central South America.
Skywarp snarled.
That's good news. Very good news. Only 6 of them. Let's go and destroy them now. Come on, let's go.
Wait. I am your leader, snapped Megatron. You will do as I say. We will investigate.
No, let's go now,
Skywarp argued.
And what if it's a trap? What will you do, eh?
Skywarp did not answer.
That is why I am your leader, snapped Megatron.
Ravage said,
I know Hound and all the other Autobots are still in the Ark on the mountain, because I have been spying. I wonder why these 6 are in South America, Megatron said. We shall find out. Rumble, Starscream, Buzzsaw, Soundwave, Skywarp, Laserbeak, come with me. The rest of you stay here. We shall find out what is happening in South America.
The Decepticons rose in the air at high speed, and Laserbeak led them to the bleak, deserted volcanic region of America. Meanwhile, the 6 Autobots, with John and Tim, got nearer to the volcano. The closer they approached it, the more difficult it became to progress. Gears lifted some of the stones and rocks out of the way, grumbling that it was always him who had to do the hard work. Sideswipe told him,
You were even more miserable than Huffer, if that is possible.
It's all right for you lot, Gears moaned, hauling a particularly large rock out of their path.
All you do is watch me work.
It's hard work watching you work, Jazz said. John and Tim smiled. They enjoyed the mock rivalry between the Autobots, but knew how loyal they really were to each other. Soon they started to climb up the sides of the volcano, and all except Gears and Sideswipe found it easier to transform to their robot selves because of the hard going. John and Tim had the easiest time as they were carried by one or other of the Autobots. Eventually they all reached the top and stood gazing down into the steaming, evil-looking, bubbling crater.
Fantastic, exclaimed Optimus Prime. The power that must be down there surely can be harnessed in some way.
They remained on the crater edge, looking and wondering. There was a low, rumbling sound, and the volcano seemed to tremble a little, and the bubbling increased for a moment. John caught Tim's eye. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? He said. Tim nodded, then said,
Optimus, I have a funny feeling this is going to erupt soon.
That would be wonderful, Optimus Prime replied. Then we can see at first hand the available power, and if there is any way it can be harnessed for our uses.
John and Tim looked worried. They were not too keen to be about if the volcano did decide to erupt. Tim said quietly,
Well, we're all right for a while, John.
But another rumble was heard. The volcano shook again.
I hope so, John said.
While all this was taking place, the Decepticon patrol was swiftly approaching. Eventually, Laserbeak gave a screech and indicated that they were in the vicinity of the Autobots.
Keep out of sight and sound, Megatron ordered. You, Laserbeak, get in as close as you can, and try not to be observed, and bring us back a full report of where they are and what they are doing.
Starscream said,
We could wipe them out now. Strike while the enemy isn't looking. If we destroy their leader, they will be lost.
Interesting, Megatron replied with sarcasm. So if I, your leader, am ever destroyed, you'll all be lost without me, eh?
Starscream didn't answer. All the Decepticons knew how ambitious he was to replace Megatron as leader. Megatron continued.
Your silence is intriguing. Do I take it that your loyalty is doubtful, or that you agree that my absence would be painful?
But before Starscream could reply, Laserbeak returned with his report. He transformed into his other disguise as an audio cassette. Soundwarp slotted the cassette into his own playback system, and they all listened to Laserbeak's observations. Then Megatron said,
I wonder what this mountain with the hole in its top is, and why it sends out steam like that. Why is Optimus Prime and his team there?
Buzzsaw said,
I wonder why they are all standing at the top and looking down into it.
Megatron mused.
Then we must find out. It must be something of use to them, or they wouldn't be wasting their time out in this godforsaken land gazing into it.
And Skywarp added,
If it is of use to the Autobots, it will be of use to us, the Decepticons.
Exactly, Megatron agreed. Exactly so.
Starscream said quietly,
Then we do as I suggested in the first place. Destroy them.
Megatron sounded annoyed.
Yes, with reservations. What reservations?
It was Rumble, who had remained fairly quiet until now.
We pounce on them as unexpectedly as possible, but try not to destroy the two Earth people.
Why not?
Starscreech demanded.
They are obviously helping the Autobots and are of use to them, so...
His voice trailed off. Megatron sighed.
I think it may have dawned on even you. They can be of use to us instead. Earth people are not strong physically. I am sure we can persuade them to give us particulars of the mountains they are studying.
Buzzsaw commented.
If we go in at them with all weapons blazing, it would be difficult not to destroy the Earthmen, too.
Megatron said. Then that will be unfortunate. Our first priority is to obliterate those stupid Autobots and take their place at the top of the mountain. Second, if possible, to take the Earth people and force them to tell us all about it. Excellent thinking, Chief. You are right as usual, Rumble said,
as always anxious to be in his leader's good books. Then Megatron gave the command.
Attack!
So the Decepticons swooped in on the unsuspecting Autobots, who were still at the crater's edge, looking down at it, completely fascinated. It was Jazz who first became aware of them.
Don't look now, you guys, but we've got trouble.
Within seconds, there was chaos on the crater's edge. Thanks to Jazz's warning and Optimus Prime's quick thinking, the Autobots were able to return enough fire to make the Decepticons take slight evasive action, so that their missiles either went into the crater or further on. Megatron snapped an order.
All Decepticons report in robotic form on opposite edge of crater to enemies.
The order was obeyed instantly. Megatron said,
But if we go in blindly, there is no doubt we shall destroy the Earth people. And now I have seen this place, I realize we do need their knowledge of it.
What is your plan, Megatron?
asked Skywarp.
Megatron replied, We have superior weaponry and numbers. We can slowly pick them off from here one by one. They also have the added problem of protecting the two Earth people.
And as if to demonstrate, he fired off his nuclear-charged fusion cannon in the direction of the Autobots. He was immediately answered by a blast from Jazz's fuel-firing power. Optimus Prime kept John and Tim behind him for protection. Sporadic firing took place. The ground shook, and both John and Tim pulled at Optimus' module. For a moment he seemed annoyed.
What is it?
Tim spoke first.
We must all get down from here as quickly as we can.
Optimus fired a round from his laser rifle.
I know you must be afraid, Tim. I'm sorry we have placed you in this position. You two clamber down as well as you can, and we shall stay here and fight these fiendish enemies from our own planet.
We are not scared of them. Well, not very. Not while you're here. But we have all got to get down now, Tim said.
More vicious firing came from the direction of the Decepticons. Optimus Prime returned some fire and then said,
No Autobot ever runs away from Decepticons.
John looked pleadingly.
Optimus, please.
Optimus sounded unusually vexed and snapped,
No, we shall not retreat.
More exchanges of fire took place across the crater. The sound was terrifying. The very earth trembled. Then John very firmly said,
Optimus Prime, I appeal to you. We have helped you on many occasions. We have this one major request. Please order this retreat and get down the mountain now.
Tim shouted above the noise of the weapons.
Trust us, Optimus. Trust us. We're not cowards. We're no more frightened of the Decepticons than you are. Trust us.
Optimus Prime looked at them both.
I trust you completely, and it would be insulting not to trust you now.
And then, to the surprise and even the shock of the Autobots, he ordered them to retreat as quickly as possible down the volcano's slopes. The Autobots could hardly believe their ears, but all had complete faith in their leader. Then Optimus Prime said,
Sideswipe, you cover our retreat. When you know we are halfway down, come down and join us.
Understood,
Sideswipe replied. Then each Autobot fired a final burst at their enemies and clambered down the steep slope.
Never thought we would ever run away, Huffer grumbled.
Optimus Prime quietly said,
John and Tim asked us to trust them. Do you or don't you?
Huffer said,
Yes, of course I do, but then do what the leader ordered and don't grumble, Jazz commented. None of us want to retreat, but orders are orders.
They clambered on down, and after a while the noise of the firing weapons became fainter, and then stopped, and they were joined by Sideswipe.
They know we have retreated, he said.
Meanwhile, the Decepticon group were both angry and delighted. Laserbeak had reported that the Autobots had retreated completely.
I always suspected that their leader was a coward,
sneered Megatron. Rumble nodded.
Perhaps so, great Megatron, but I never thought I would see our enemy give in as easily as that.
Skywarp said,
Can't we go after them and finish them off?
Starscream, who was looking at the great boiling crater, commented,
We have plenty of time for that later, Megatron. Look at the force and power here. This is what they were after.
Megatron joined him.
I wonder if they were finding a way to harness it. That is why I didn't want the Earth creatures killed. By retreating like that, they have played into our hands. We are in possession of this power source, and we can capture some other Earth people who know about it and...
He stopped speaking. Then,
what was that?
What, oh great Megatron?
Rumble asked.
A noise down there in that deep bubbling hole.
I heard it too, said Soundwave. In fact, I have been hearing it ever since we got here. What is it?
Suddenly, they knew the answer. In one almighty roar, the crater exploded. Fire and flame burst up into the sky. Great rocks flew out like pebbles, rocks big enough and forceful enough to even knock down the great, powerful Decepticons. A gigantic, foaming, hideous mass of molten lava gushed up and spilled over the crater's edge. The Decepticons were taken completely unawares. Only Laserbeak, who had been flying, tracing the retreat of the Autobots, escaped. The Decepticons were knocked over and tumbled fast halfway down the side of the volcano, and before they could transform, the boiling lava had trapped them and held them prisoner. Any creatures other than those from Cybertron would have perished instantly, but the Decepticons just shouted in anger as the lava held them trapped. Laserbeak saw their plight and came flying over. Megatron shouted,
We have been trapped! We can't move! Get back to the fortress and bring all the help you can, quick! Go on, go!
And as Laserbeak sped back for assistance, the Autobots far below saw the plight of their enemies. Optimus Prime turned to John and Tim.
Thank you both.
And then he turned to all the other Autobots.
Always trust true friends, whether from our planet or this one. On our way. Transform!
And with John and Tim once more in Huffer's cab, they continued on their way. But they couldn't resist giving some triumphant blasts on their horns at the Decepticons, who were trapped high above in the cooling lava and unable to move while furiously awaiting rescue teams from Decepticon headquarters.